The first thing in hip hop that came was the drum, was the DJ. And that's what we're focusing on. Like, that's why we dance, it's because of the DJ. That's what makes our dance what it is. Breaking is also known as breakdance. This is because it was done to the break in a record. A part of music that it's kind of like the bridge where all the instruments are taken out except for the drums. James Brown was really well known for his breakdowns or his breaks. That music, soul music, became hip hop. What somebody did was extend the break by putting it on 2 records and just turning back one record as one break plays, so then it'll play again, and then turning it back while that one's playing. And so that's how basically hip hop got started, is taking the break and extending it. So it was just a drum beat. That break is what the B stands for in B-boy or B-girl. Somebody that goes beyond the breaking point. That's another definition. We get those definitions from Kool Herc, who is looked at as the godfather of hip hop culture. Hip hop was born between the mid to late 60s to the early 70s. There was a lot of things going on in the inner city. There was a lot of drugs and violence that was happening around then. Nixon and Carter and Reagan totally contributed to what happened with hip hop. The war on drugs, and they did all these things that they disguised as helping people. And then later years, people are still paying for this kind of stereotypes they put out. They were having things pushed into their neighborhoods and communities that broke those communities apart. Instead of having people dance on the corner, you were having people selling drugs on the corner. And they were kicking the kids off on the corner that just wanted to dance. Because everybody was trying to make money at that point. And that's not because people wanted to sell drugs. That's because it was being pushed at them, and that was the only way that they were going to be able to do it. The African American kids created this to stay alive. And that's like the viewpoint of KRS-One. So that's at essence, like, that's what hip hop is. People were trying to stay alive, and the way they did it is that they got creative, and people would leave them alone because they were creative, or they would get attention from, like the right kind of attention, and not be pulled into, a bad situation maybe. Like, you can just imagine like pressure on coal. And you put so much pressure on coal, it becomes a diamond, and that's like what hip hop is. Hip hop is like the diamond that came out of all of that craziness that was happening in the inner cities. The 4 pillars of hip hop are DJing, graffiti art, MCing, and breaking. Graffiti art, it was born of trains. Like, that's like its birthplace. That's what makes it different than people just writing on the wall, because that's been going on from, since the beginning of time, really. But the reason why it's different is because people were making murals that moved, that everybody in the city could see. It embodied like a rebellious spirit of the time that it came out. MCing was like actually the last thing to come along. In between MCing and DJing, you had breaking being born. And breaking is the first dance of hip hop because it was done to hip hop originally. You had popping and locking and rocking, and along with breaking, and those are the 4 basic dances of hip hop. Rocking is the pre-hip hop dance. It's the one that came before breaking, and you had 2 groups of people. You had rockers and burners were the guys that went down on the ground. Somewhere along the line, they melded into one thing, which we call a breaker now. To have forms that are so different in one culture that I don't know of any that are so extreme like that. I mean, the difference between popping and breaking it's night and day. One is standing up, one is on the ground. There's a lot of creativity in the culture.